WrestleBuddy Podcast. All about wrestling. Subscribe and follow for more content.
Welcome, WrestleBuddies, to our weekly news roundup of all your wrestling news that's gone on throughout the last 7 days. I am joined by my main man, Jimmy Baby, and Zane as well. How are we both doing, gentlemen? We good?
Doing pretty good, being the secondary man.
Good, man. I've been looking forward to this news roundup, to be honest, all week, because there's a lot of news that's gone on this week, hasn't there? And a lot of controversies as well as exciting things. You know, it's been a bit of a mixed bag in the world of wrestling, but probably the good thing is there has been news, which is what we want to see, isn't it? So, okay, so first thing that we're going to go over is this week it was announced Roman Reigns next challenger after Finn Balor, saying after Extreme Rules against Finn Balor and Brock Lesnar will be about, but they're not going to do that match right away. WWE are advertising for after the draft, it'll be Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. So it looks like the way it's set up for Roman at the moment is Extreme Rules against Finn and Crown Jewel is Brock Lesnar. So it looks like Drew's going to be getting drafted to Smackdown, which, you know, I'm sure we've all said, haven't we, Jimmy, that we seen that coming a mile away.
Yeah, it was needed for Drew. I think he needs a new place. He's been putting people over on Raw. It just makes sense, and he needs new scenery because he's gotten stale a little bit.
What do you think on that, Zane?
Yeah, I have to agree with Jimmy, but I feel like McIntyre versus Roman Reigns they're doing it a bit earlier. I thought there was going to be a bit of a build to it because it's a pay-per-view match. They had the match at last year at Survivor Series, which was one of the best matches Roman Reigns has had within the past 17 months or so. So I was actually looking forward to a proper feud between the two, but I feel like this is going to end in a this is going to have a non-clean finish, and then they're going to build up after once Roman is done with Balor, done with Brock, then they can build Roman versus Drew for Royal Rumble or something, a big pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Okay. And just talking about one of Roman's opponents coming up, Finn Balor, it was stated that he's looking on facing John Cena at WrestleMania of all places. I don't really know if that's anything that's in the plans official or whether that's Finn just flapping his gums on that one for now. What's your thoughts on that, Zane? Cena versus Balor at WrestleMania?
I'm a fan. I'm already a fan of it. Even though there has been no build, there is a lot that they can build off of based on the SummerSlam. Balor was originally planned to face Roman Reigns, and then Cena, being the piece of shit he is, steals the contract and signs his own name on it. So yeah, I don't understand why they didn't do it earlier. They didn't book the match for SmackDown after Roman defeated Cena, because Cena was still around. He was doing a dark match at Madison Square Garden. But if they're going to do it anywhere, then WrestleMania seems to be a suitable occasion for that. Yeah,
and I think also it's a good way to slot John Cena back into the company when he comes back from his little his layoff again. What do you think on that, Jimmy?
He's obviously going to have a WrestleMania match. I'm not a fan of it being Finn, though. I don't think, because there's obviously story there based on the contract thing. I would have preferred John wrestling Finn at the Madison Square Garden show. Put Finn over, make Finn a more viable opponent for Roman going in Extreme Rules. I think that would have helped that. But to put that, I think it's too far out based on what's happened to kind of reignite it, and who's to know like how hot Finn will be at that point. You know, he might cool off. The fans might just I know fans like Finn, but based on how he's booked, you know, it might just be like, well, why is John Cena coming back to fight Finn Balor? It doesn't really like, I feel like that match, I don't think Finn has the star power for a WrestleMania match with John Cena.
Interesting.
That's my take on it.
Yeah,
I love Finn. I love him, but
it's one of them, though. Do you not think Cena's at a time in his career where he's the star and he doesn't need anybody on that same level to kind of make it a good match?
For any other pay-per-view, yes. But for WrestleMania, I just feel like you're supposed to be putting on the show of shows. If they're doing 2 nights and they're doing an 80,000 seat arena, that's 160,000 tickets they got to sell. And I just don't see John Cena, Finn Balor helping you sell that many tickets.
See, do you know what? For me, I'd be very kind of intrigued by that. Do you know what I mean? I think like how it would go out. Would Cena put him over? Would he not? You know, what's your thoughts on that team? Would you, you know?
No, actually, I have to agree with Jimmy again over here because I would have preferred it to happen around Madison Square Garden because that would have been a perfect occasion for them to build towards Balor versus Roman Reigns taking place at Extreme Rules. But I think Balor and Cena can put on a WrestleMania match, but it's more of like a Royal Rumble feud or SummerSlam feud at that.
Yeah.
Because when you have John Cena, you have stars like Drew McIntyre there. You have other big guys. Roman Reigns he's already faced. You have Edge. You can reinvigorate that rivalry. So yeah, there's a lot of options for Cena.
Do you not see that those being a good, you know, card match rather than, you know, looking at it as a main event match? You know, if you've got a big matches already in the main event and you've got some big matches, this could be a really good solid card match for WrestleMania.
But if you already have you already have Cena on the card, why not make it a big match?
And you got to think with the last WrestleMania being minimum capacity, they just did 25,000. They're really gonna come out with a bang at this WrestleMania. This is like 2 WrestleManias in a row where they didn't get to do what they wanted to do as far as fan wise. So you're gonna really have to sell some matches and give us some big marquee matches because just 2 big main events, one for each night, isn't going to do it.
I know that, but at the same time, you know, WWE are always kind of criticised for going back to drink from the well, or the Cena well, or the Lesnar well, or the Rock, or whoever else, you know, like to pop it and stuff. Would you not think by popping them against Finn, it's a really good match? It gets the eyes with Cena that you're going to get anyway by having him on the card, but without taking too much of the, you know, the main event status with them trying to build new stars into their main event roles.
I think it would be a great match. I'm not debating that at all. I think with them doing Drew versus Roman seemingly so soon, I think Roman would be a better fit for a WrestleMania match with John Cena. John comes back around Royal Rumble, if that's when he would come back to start hyping up the show. You could have them Elimination Chamber. You could have Finn Balor and John Cena get that match, and then someone else. Like I said, it's no discredit to Finn Balor, and I'm trying to think how WWE is going to want to book things because of the show. And unless Finn Balor just keeps this lightning in a bottle that he has and rides that wave all the way to WrestleMania, I just don't think that would be something WWE wants to put their eggs in. Okay.
So one of the other big topics of this week was the rumours that was reported on Cage Side Seats that the Hurt Business could be getting the band back together. You know, there's speculation on the reuniting, and then Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin haven't been nowhere to be seen since the Hurt Business went. Now Lashley has lost his contract, and he may need the Hurt Business to go along with him. And then there was also a picture of MVP sitting beside Shelton Benjamin with a quote discussing business with an old acquaintance, which could be a nod to what they're trying to do. What would be your thought, Jimmy, on the Hurt Business getting back together?
I think it would please a lot of the fans because nobody, I think it's 100% agreement that nobody was a fan of them breaking up. I kind of understand why they did it, but nobody was a fan of it. I think an interesting thing here is the rumor of Adam Cole being Keith Lee's manager and then being heel. I think there's obviously, if that rumor is true, then there's obviously plans to want to turn Keith Lee heel. And I've said for months now, I think this is the best way to do it because he has nothing. He's kind of, I don't want to say boring, but as a face, he's not working on the main roster. No. And you plug him in with the Hurt Business, he's not boring. He has something he can work with, and I think it's a brilliant idea.
I think now more than ever with the hair business, obviously stables are becoming more relative in WWE. Obviously, back when they first got together, it wasn't so much the case. But obviously now with the emergence of the bloodline, we've still got the New Day there. The story is there for them to tell, isn't the same if they did get the hair business back together.
Yeah, I am a fan of factions. I feel like they added a lot to the story. But to begin with, there was no proper reason to break up the Hurt business. What they did was they broke up the Hurt business and then fed Cedric and Shelton Benjamin to Bobby Lashley so he can look strong. I feel like you have put the potential, as Jimmy said, to add more members to the Hurt business. And in a recent interview, Bobby Lashley discussed this idea of adding other guys into the Hurt business. And one of his main ideas was to add Keith Lee into the Hurt business as well. So let's see where that goes, because if Keith Lee turns heel, he can do some amazing stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a big fan of them getting back together. I just feel like they really need to do that. And as I say, I think the dynamic shifted a lot since the last time they were together, and I feel like they nestle in quite nicely. I think the only issue then is I think we might need to see a couple of more stables come together in order to make it more interesting. Or either that, or I'd like to see them add to the stables, so potentially the New Day could get somebody in with them, but maybe even female. Obviously there's already a ready-made bloodline member there in Naomi for them, and then you could have maybe with the New Day, you could pop someone in with them, and then obviously with the hair business as well, you could I think Bianca Belair is probably a good fit for New Day, maybe, or the hair business. She could turn heel and throw with the hair business. That'd be an interesting one. But what's your thoughts on that, Jimmy?
Yeah, I like the idea of adding a female to the group. I think that just with women's wrestling evolving how it's done, I mean, it just kind of seems silly to see these factions without a female being a part of them. Like with Legado del Fantasma or on NXT, they got the two groups with female part of the groups now, and it just looks more not manufactured. It looks more real. Like you're not just going to have a bunch of guys.
Could you see one of them groups getting pushed up?
Not yet. I think Hit Row's too green. They got with I can't remember his name, but Top Dollar and the other guy, Ashanti. Yeah. I think they're too green to be bringing up. But with the Hurt business, I think Shayna would be a great fit. I think it's just a match made in heaven. And if you're redoing the Hurt business, I don't think you need to be bringing in the same people. That's why the Keith Lee makes sense to me. Maybe Cedric Alexander you could bring back. I feel like he gives them a different dynamic. If not, a Ricochet. And then the fourth member, it definitely should be a female. And Shayna's my choice for that. I think she would be perfect.
If you were looking to go down the female route, who would you pick on the New Day, Zane?
Bianca Belair or Bianca. I think she's the main choice, or even someone if we can pick from SmackDown. I'd like to have Liv Morgan do something. So I'll tell you what. Who else would be an interesting one? Maybe if this is kind of a slow burner, Bayley. Yeah, get the old Hugger character back and throw her with the New Day. It'd be interesting.
New Day and Bayley on the mic together. I think that's golden.
Yeah. And obviously they're all, let Bayley be an old daft character and dancing about and whatnot.
Another option, I think, Sasha's is usually pretty boring as a face. It never works. I think her with the New Day would be very helpful for her. And she's not, like, what is she doing? Like, I think she's getting moved to Raw, so I think it's a good fit.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully, I think we're going to see a few factions coming back, and I think like WWE have been missing factions for a number of years now, or anytime they've kind of threatened to do a few bits more factions, they've pulled away from them, which bit disappointing, because one thing that I like about factions, and this is what's worked well in AEW, is when you've got a main match of someone versus X versus Y, then because you've got factions there, you can kind of tell the story and keep them two away from each other until the main event.
It helps not do rematches too, because if you have a faction, you're trying to get to that top guy each week. You can fight off all the members, and it's not it's continuous story, and you're not doing rematches, and it's just I would like them to not do 4 people though. I feel like that's their cutoff for whatever reason. I would like to see a few of them, not crazy. We don't want an NWO size faction, but like I think 6 would be a nice.
Bray Wyatt, and he was talking about AEW in general. So just to give a bit of a quote, he's probably going to join the already inflated AEW roster. And where are you going to put Bray Wyatt when Aleister Black is your kind of dark sadistic character? They just don't have space to put them in the same time. If you're Tony Khan, how can you not sign Bray Wyatt? He's got a name, facial recognition, and people are big fans. I would sign him if I was Tony, but then you would have to figure out what am I going to do with this guy, especially with Brian coming in now and Punk's already there. That's the place. If he doesn't watch out, it's going to turn into WCW. Now, I know we've talked quite a bit about the whole AEW, WCW. I feel like AEW had to get the talent in because unlike WCW, they were a brand new company. So they obviously had to get talent in. But I do feel like we're getting to a point where the talent that we need to be adding needs to be beneficial and take it to another level. But we need to slow down with the talent. I mentioned on yesterday's podcast, didn't I, Zane, about the fact that, we need to stop where every pay-per-view there's a new face, because otherwise fans become expectant to that. And, we need to start turning the screw on the storylines and making it more enjoyable that way, rather than having to have a newer face every single time we go into it. One thing that I will say, though, is I feel like Conan's not giving Bray Wyatt a bit of recognition here, because I feel like Bray Wyatt in AEW will not be a dark character. I feel like, Wyndham Rotunda, as we call him nowadays, is a very, very clever and creative mind. And I think he'll probably want to go something completely different from the Wyatt family, the Fiends. He'll want to come in with a brand new story and a brand new character and something completely new. What's your thoughts on that, Jimmy?
I agree 100% on the Bray Wyatt being creative. I think he's the most creative mind in all of wrestling right now. Not even a question. But the thing is like the space. Even if he has a new character, where do you fit him in without taking away from these other people? It's the thing where it's Bray Wyatt. You sign him. Like, there's no reason not to sign him, because he's going to help bring eyes to your show. He's going to help make stories on your show interesting. There's a lot of stuff he can do with the talent, and especially if he's not handcuffed. I think the stories he could tell are just going to be amazing. But again, with all the other guys coming in, without some of these guys, I know everyone hates the part-timer thing, but without these older guys coming in that are not going to be part-timers, they are taking time away from people. We've seen it. I think I should be seeing more of Sammy Guevara than I am of CM Punk. I think I should be seeing more of I think we do see a lot of Orange Cassidy. MJF is a name. We do see him on TV, but we don't see him wrestle a lot on TV. I think that's kind of crazy. I think they should be doing more with him, but again, it's kind of hard when you have every pay-per-view or every big event they do, there's this big debut, and it's just more and more to that roster. And unless they plan on doing another show or something like that, I just don't see how all that talent continues to work while they keep adding more talent.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I feel like, as we said yesterday, it's one after another with the debuts, and it's got to stop somewhere. But I feel like Bray Wyatt's a different kettle of fish to CM Punk, because with Brian is a different kettle of fish. CM Punk is coming because eyes will watch because he's CM Punk, and we've seen this in the way that he's being presented, in the fact of the hi, it's CM Punk again. Oh, CM Punk's going to speak. Oh, let's put CM Punk on commentary. it's anything to show CM Punk's here.
Yeah.
Where with Brian's coming in because it's the mesh of the matches. Let's mesh the matches, let's have these dream wrestling matches, which is why I'm not mad at the whole Omega match, because we want to see it. We're going to get to see it. Awesome. And I feel like there's a lot of matches in AEW that you will see Brian Danielson have through purely wrestling. So that's a different angle. And I feel like Bray Wyatt will come in, and anybody you put in a story, and what I was saying yesterday is probably very valid here. Sorry, I know I'm going on a tangent, but I am getting there. Is yesterday when we were talking, we were saying about the lack of depth in storylines, or the lack of excitement for the storyline, because they're giving us these matches week in, week out, and they're not building. You can say what you like about the Jericho feud, but at least there was a build behind it. It may not have been the best, but at least there was something there. It's not CM Punk coming out and going, Darby Allin, or whoever it is next. Brian Danielson coming out, and it's, I'm going to wrestle Omega because this is going to be a best wrestling match. I want to wrestle the best. That's fine. But long term, you've got to have these stories, and I feel Bray Wyatt could come in and a Sammy Guevara, or a Miro, or someone like that. They could come in and have a slow burn and 2-month feud accumulating at one of the big pay-per-views, and people would buy that pay-per-view to watch that match because of the way that they created it and built it and done it right. So that's where I feel like Conan's wrong, because I feel like with Bray Wyatt, you're adding another different dimension to the whole company and the whole way that they do it. What's your thoughts, Zane?
I feel like Bray Wyatt, even though he is praised universally, is quite underrated. His mind and the stories he makes are some of the best. Now, even with The Fiend, the character, there is a video on YouTube. WWE used to do this thing, ghost stories with WWE superstars. And in 2015, they did an episode of Ghost Stories with Bray Wyatt. And he described someone that we didn't know what that creature was. He was like, he looks like this, he looks like that, and that, this and that. And then 4 years later, he debuts The Fiend, and people refer back to that video from 2015, and they're like, oh, he was talking about The Fiend back then. So you have that kind of mind on your roster. He's on another league of his own. And the difference with him, with Aleister Black, Malachi Black, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Andrade, all these people coming in, Adam Cole, is that eventually when you look at them, you're like, all right, I would like to see them in the AEW World Title picture, but I don't want them to take the spot away from any of them. With Bray Wyatt, you can keep him away from the title as long as you want, and he'll stay relevant. You don't need to build him up. You can, even in defeat, he looks very good. Although, like with I'm not saying Goldberg defeating The Fiend was a good choice. That was absolutely horrendous. But other options with Bray Wyatt putting over younger talent, that could be such an integral thing that AEW can add to their roster. So I think that Conan might be doing Bray Wyatt a bit of a disservice here by saying that they're overpopulating the roster. Because with Kevin Steen or Johnny Gargano, who can possibly be heading there, or even El Generic Sami Zayn, there are these things where you're like, all right, they're going to be in the World Championship picture sooner or later. They're going to take a spot. But Bray Wyatt could create room for someone to truly elevate themselves.
Yeah. And also, as I say, the way that he said Malachi Black is already a dark character, we may not see a dark character from Bray Wyatt from Wyndham Rotunda, because at the end of the day, he's a very creative guy. And I've got a feeling if I was him, and I was that creative, or I love to create things and I love to do, all this 90 days I've been sitting off, I'd be formulating a plan, getting a new character, and I'd go away from the dark characters for the specific reason is I would want to be as far away from my WWE characters as possible to make this whole new thing and say, well, this is what, if you let me do this myself, this is, look what I can do. I'm not just a character that was in WWE, I'm something totally, new.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he could come up with a character that is completely separate from what we've seen previous. I know the Eater of Worlds and the Fiend are both kind of dark characters, but I don't feel like they're anything similar. And the fact that he was able to give us two dark characters like that are not anywhere close to being the same speaks to his creativeness, because that's just, those are probably the two best characters that we've seen in WWE in the past 20 years. with character work. And I definitely, I mean, we saw it with the Bray Wyatt alter ego during the Fiend thing. That was a happy-go-lucky, and even that was just brilliant stuff. Mm-hmm. So I can definitely see him going a different route if he went to AEW. I'm still on the. I still believe he's going to end up in Impact, though. I just think that's the way for him to go, and then he could still do stuff in AEW because
it'd be interesting because if Impact, like, say, give him a kind of a VP role or give him some interest in the company where it's like, okay, well, you can bring your characters here, but if the company does well off them, which it looks like it potentially will, then we will reward you by making you a partner of the company in some way or something, to keep them creative and keep them going. It'd be interesting. Yeah. Okay, so one thing I did want to mention on this, and I think you just touched on it there, Zane, is you can't have everyone in the thing and they're adding. It's got to come to a point, hasn't it, guys, where they're going to have to start releasing people. It's come. And if you look at the current roster, who would you say would be the biggest name that they would release?
Brian Cage.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Sorry for that matter.
No,
but yeah, his wife is going on a rant right now. Not right now, like a week ago or something.
Yeah,
and Brian Cage was liking all these tweets saying that he's being misused. So I feel like he might be on his way out. They even promoted Stocks versus Brian Cage, and the match didn't happen. So yeah.
Okay, what about you, Jimmy?
I think Brian Cage is the obvious one, so I'll just give out a random one. I think Matt Hardy. I mean, what is he really offering? I mean, other than his backstage stuff and helping young talent, I mean, what is he really offering? Nobody's interested in his angle right now.
No.
Hasn't he gone through 3 character changes since he's been there? Because he came in as like broken Matt Hardy, and then he was something else, and now he's Big Money Matt. I don't know what his contract is, but I imagine it's not small. I imagine he's making a little bit of money, and that would be a good cut.
But I think for him as well, is he probably realizes that, and maybe after the end of this contract and going into another contract, he'll sign a smaller deal for backstage because, especially for the company that's still relatively in the infancy, he's a great talent to have around backstage and stuff like that. And he's another one who's a good creative mind, so he'd be another one that'd be good to have around.
Definitely was not a knock on him. I just
no, 100%, no. But I totally agree with you. At the moment, he is treading water. One thing that is very interesting for me is I am going to go with Moxley. I feel like Moxley was the top of the shop, missed the main event and everything else for AEW. And since he has dropped the title and some of these other names come in, he's becoming very irrelevant in AEW.
I feel like sorry to cut you off. I don't think you. I feel like that Moxie's getting everything he wants. He's getting to face his dream opponents because Satoshi Kojima was right off his bucket list. He's facing Suzuki this week, so I don't see him going back to AEW. I do see him going and doing a stint in New Japan or something for a while he's still signed to AEW.
It's just I don't know whether you've seen this interview the other week as well, is where he was stating about how he was never saying never for WWE, where when he first left it was never, where now he kind of seems to have warmed to the idea. Do you not think it could be a case of if he goes back to WWE and knows that he'll be, especially with Roman where he is and Seth and he knows he's always going to have a place that he can go and do well in and stuff, and it's, kind of like these guys before they, you get married, you want to go out and do everything that you want to do, and then you'll settle down when you get into your mid-20s. Funny enough, we were talking about that before, but it's he's going out there now and he's getting it out of his system. He's going through the matches he wants to do. He's doing all this, and then in the end, he'll settle down and come back to WWE.
Yep, I think that's exactly what's happening. I think right now he's showing that he doesn't need to do those goofy characters to get over. I think what he's doing right now is over. It's clear. You see the reaction he's getting, and it's very clear. I think he's going to have a lot of power.
Yeah.
If it comes to negotiations with WWE to be like, hey, let me do this, and see the star power that I actually have. I mean, I went on a tear that first year he was away from WWE. Like he was like the biggest name in wrestling there for a time period. And I think Roman's already planted little seeds when he mentioned like John's not here because he knows he's not the man. He knows I'm the man. So to think of like a big debut where Dean Ambrose comes back and he's like, oh, you thought I couldn't be the man? Well, now here I am. And that's just a great feud you have. And again, it's simple storytelling, and I think it would work.
It'd be interesting as well to see if they brought it back as Dean Ambrose or John Moxley.
Yeah, Dean Ambrose, 100%. I feel like. Yeah, and what if the mystery challenger we're thinking who takes the title of Roman Reigns? What if it's Ambrose? What if maybe years down the line, like Ambrose comes back? That's a WrestleMania match in and of itself.
Well, Moxley's been in AEW for pretty much all of it now, and I wonder how long his contract's got left, because AEW is around about 2.5 years old now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
imagine another year.
I think it's 2022.
I would imagine it was a 3-year.
So he could be looking January, February. It could be up. So you don't know, do you? And also, he's just had a child as well, so he might want to, his missus might be saying to him, "Look, I know you want these death matches and these strong matches and that, but after that, let's go back to a bit more safeness.
Let's secure our future."
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So his contract is coming up in May of next year.
Okay.
So his contract runs up. He takes a few months off to enjoy time with the baby and his wife, and then he shows up around Royal Rumble of 2023. I think that's brilliant. I think that would be brilliant.
Or if he wants to take about 3 months off, he could pop up SummerSlam next year.
Yeah.
No. Interesting, but obviously we'll see how that goes. So, next on our news roundup this week, we had Edge shocked the world of pro wrestling when he did return. And unfortunately, he's just had injury after injury since. And I feel for him. I really do feel for the guy. Feel like his injury he had during the pandemic, all right, fair dues, no problem at all, because there was no fans there. So I suppose if there was any time for him to get injured, it was then. But the pandemic as well was unfortunate for him. The fact that he just made this return, you're looking forward to this big WrestleMania match in front of a full stadium, and then whoosh, all took away from him. But Edge is not meant to be around for a few months, so the injury angles popped him to see how he can get away. Again, to have his little bit of a time off. So obviously we've seen him go out on a stretcher, and it looks like that's going to be him out for a bit, but it's expected to miss several months of WWE TV. What's your thoughts on that?
I feel like that's...
Sorry. Zane, go on.
Yeah, the thing, I feel like it's time for Edge to make his annual Royal Rumble return. He's been making a Royal Rumble return ever since he returned at the Royal Rumble. So yeah, I don't have an issue with him taking time off. I really don't. He eventually, at the end of the day, he is a part-timer. He is like 45 years old, right? And he has a neck injury. He has a triple fusion neck surgery. He's had a triple fusion neck surgery. He has a bad neck. He had a torn tricep last year, so he's facing injuries. And I didn't ever expect him to wrestle on a full-time schedule, but it'll be good for me to see him wrestle on the Big Four and maybe some other pay-per-views here and there.
Okay, so one thing that I did want to say with regards to this as well is I think like Edge is coming into the same Brock and Cena category now, where people expect him not to wrestle full time and nobody's mad at the fact. I mean, I know certainly I'm not. Jimmy, what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely not, because he's putting on fantastic matches every time he gets to the ring. I don't think he has not had a bad outing since he got here. The Royal Rumble performance it's amazing that he could take that much time off and then come back and run basically the gauntlet of the Royal Rumble. The WrestleMania match was fantastic. The one-on-one match with Roman was fantastic. Both matches with Rollins have been fantastic. He's, of the three that we just talked about, Brock and Cena, he's clearly the best storyteller of the three. And I think him taking time off with this injury just fits right in with the storytelling. If he comes back at the Royal Rumble, which is when I would expect him to come back as well. Clearly Seth Rollins and him are not done, so I can see him and Seth going at it in the Rumble and then setting up that third match that I think is very obvious is going to happen. Probably
Okay, so
and there's another just marquee matchup.
Yeah, Brilliant. One thing that I did want to say as well is about Jeff Hardy. Apparently, he's planning to look to bring back his Willow character before he retires. Me, for one, wouldn't be mad at that. I always thought I was always a fan of the Willow character. What about yourself, Jay? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really do feel like Jeff Hardy needs something to fuel his wrestling career right now. Be it joining Matt over in AEW and going on a greatest hits tour of the Hardy Boys, or reintroducing the Willow character, because we know Jeff Hardy can go even at the age of 40, and he had a great match with Damian Priest last week on Raw. So yeah, as long as they keep him out of the 24/7 title picture, which they shortly introduced him into the week before, I think that he can do good for himself. So yeah, not a big fan of Willow, sorry, but I don't mind seeing him bring Willow back.
Oh, you, Jimmy?
Yep. I'm not a fan of the Willow character. I'm not even really a big fan of Jeff Hardy. I know what he's done. I know he's popular. You definitely want to capitalize on that. I think if he's getting drafted to SmackDown, I think it's a perfect time to just reintroduce Willow. He needs something, because obviously what he's doing is nothing. It's not clicking. It's not interesting. So switch it up and switch the character up.
Yeah, no problem at all. And the one thing that annoys me on WWE at the moment, especially with the likes of Jeff Hardy, is, I think this week was the first time that we've seen him kind of putting somebody else over in terms of Damian Priest. And what I mean by that is you can use that. I think the likes of Jeff Hardy are underutilized in the fact of they can be used to get other people over, and somebody who you want to have a good wrestling match with. If you put them against Jeff Hardy, and Jeff Hardy knows how to sell, and he can sell well and put on a good match, and they could just utilize them better. He's a lot better than just getting thrown chasing for the 24/7 championship, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's silly to put him in that segment, whatever you want to call it. He's definitely higher than that. I think I know the Twitter community is a very small percentage of the fan base, but if they're going to use Jeff Hardy in that capacity, these people have to realize that he's not Jeff Hardy of 20 years ago, and they can't be throwing a hissy fit every time he's losing to Karrion Kross, or when he beats Karrion Kross, they throw a fit, and he comes back and he beats Karrion Kross, and Jeff Hardy deserves better. I think that needs to stop, because that would definitely send mixed signals to people who pay attention to Twitter at WWE. They're gonna be like, well, what are we supposed to do with this guy?
Release him. Don't know that.
And then what do they do? Oh, how can they do this to Jeff Hardy?
And
don't release Jeff Hardy. I'm just kidding.
One thing I wanted to address, and I think I addressed it yesterday, but just while we were talking about the news and stuff like that, is one thing that's annoying me at the moment in the world of pro wrestling, and I'll probably do one of these rants each week on just one topic, but is everybody, if you're not going to do it, not and release them and he'll go to AEW, they'll know what to do with him. Okay? And I just want to address that and say, stop talking absolute nonsense, you stupid people.
Thanks, I needed to hear that.
Andrade, they've done jack shit with that man since he's first come into AEW. They've done nothing with him. FTR, good start at the championships. They're just floating around. They don't know how to use them now. Do you know what I mean?
I could write a book on that one.
Miro, they use him very well, but I think that's down to Miro rather than AEW.
But question on that one: what would they be doing with Miro if Kip Sabian did not get hurt?
And yeah, that's another one, isn't it?
That's a very fair question, I think. Would you still be doing that nonsense?
After Ruby Soho gets beat by Britt Baker, what are they going to do with it then? And it just annoys me with this nonsense of release them because AEW will know to do better with them. It doesn't necessarily mean they will. It's like Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn's contract's up. Kevin Owens' contract's up soon. Do AEW need them for one? And what will AEW do better with them?
I'll play the IWC here and play the devil's advocate and say that, well, you can't pass upon Kevin Owens. He's a good talker. You need to have him on the roster. If you have him, you need Sami Zayn. But then again, I feel like then where do you draw the line? Where does this end? Because they're really overcrowded. They have like 90 plus people, and more than half of them are certified main eventers that make a strong case for being in the world title picture.
Do you think sooner rather than later we see them introduce a third title?
Yeah,
I was thinking that. Yeah, I was thinking they're gonna in my fantasy booking dreams they're gonna buy out NWA and Eddie Kingston is gonna be the champion, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Hopefully.
God. All right, so we move on from there. So the last topic that we're going to discuss tonight is probably the most, well, for me personally, the most interesting topic of the week. Dark Side of the Ring's back. Always great shows, awesome to watch, really, really good, and very well put together. You know, I was saying to you guys yesterday on our group chat that I feel like as they've gone through the seasons, it's getting better and better. They're getting the presentation and everything that they're doing is better. Did you both catch Dark Side of the Ring this week?
Yep.
Yeah. And do you know one thing I'll say is, Chris, I was talking to Chris on the chat and he said, have you seen Dark Side of the Ring? This was on Friday, and you know, in the UK, I don't know what it's like for you, Zane, but we don't get it on terrestrial telly until about 6 months after it's on in America. It comes out, it makes its way over here. So obviously we have to find it online. So I was talking to Chris and I said, no, I haven't watched it yet, but it's what I'm going to watch tonight. And he just said, get ready for a roller coaster of emotion. And that's exactly what it was, wasn't it, Jimmy?
Yes, it definitely was. This was, of this season, this was probably my second most anticipated episode. I was just dying. Because when it happened, I was younger. I knew of some of the things that happened, but I was not aware of more than half of it from what I saw in that documentary. It was just, oh wow, and then it was like, oh no, oh that's oh no.
Yeah. It was like, ha ha ha, oh poor girl, oh my god. It was like, what did you think, Zane?
I feel like even though many people knew of this stuff, but it put a well-deserved spotlight on the things that happened, and it's, as like Jim Ross said, there were many concerning things that came out of it. As RVD, within like a couple of minutes into the episode, RVD says that they used to H-bomb girls, local girls, and the wrestlers used to take advantage of them. And I was like, oh shit, what? Like that grabbed my attention so much, and he was just so casually saying it. And then obviously
the thing is, we're sorry, with RVD, obviously we're getting to Dreamer a little bit later on, but with RVD, I feel like he could be reading the most dramatic of books and he would still make it sound like it's nothing. And one thing to say with just 24 hours a day. And one thing is he said was he didn't condone it, he just told what was happening back then. And RVD was well known in the WWE at that time to be married to a really restrictive wife. So he wasn't one to go and party with the lads and drink. He just wanted to smoke his weed, didn't he?
It's definitely. I'm not saying that RVD, like his manner of saying was
I've just seen a few people online really going, well, you know, all this has happened to Dreamer, which we'll get into, but what's not happened to RVD? And it's like, but RVD never once stated that one, it was okay, or two, he participated in anything. He just basically said how it was. And, you know, if anything, I think it was very brave of him to do that, and you know, commendable of him. I always remember a story with RVD in the WWE is they were saying there was some storylines they wanted to do which he rejected because he didn't want to upset his wife. So it just shows you what his mindset was at the time, Jimmy, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you go to his Twitter, you will see the last 2 or 3 days, he has been going back and forth with a lot of fans who are misinterpreting what he was saying or how he said it, and basically making them look like fools, because he was, of all the people that were on the documentary, he was the only one where I was like, well, he was decent. Like, he was just calling out what happened and letting people know, like, this is what it was.
Just basically calling a spade, and
Yeah.
you know, there's some things that they potentially missed out of this episode, which obviously I know it's not everything's going to make the cut, but the only thing I didn't like in this episode, and someone mentioned it on Twitter before, and they were very, very spot on with what they were saying, was they didn't mention Vince McMahon wrestling with Kurt Angle.
I think
On the
that was
plane.
another flight. I think that
Yeah.
that was
sorry. Jonathan Coachman actually talked to someone on Twitter about that, where he said it's not the same flight. He even said that he said Vince McMahon and Linda weren't even on that flight.
Yeah, no, they were on the flight because it stated that the
that's disputed.
Yeah, Jonathan Coachman is backing, like he is standing his ground on it. He says they were not on that flight.
Because what was interesting. Sorry, Meltzer. Yeah, Uncle Dave's not in my good book at the moment. He's been on a stinker recently, so I'm not.
Neither is he in mine.
Yeah, anything that Uncle Dave says does not strict goal with me at the moment. Yeah. But one thing I will say is it did state that he was there. The class part of the plane. I don't know what that means. Yeah.
Cut off.
Well, we're facing some audio issues with Andy right now.
Okay,
Andy,
guys, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. With the Brock Lesnar bit and what he done with Terry Runnels, I thought was a bit, you know, I mean, it just shows you with WWE, which really upsets me, is like, if you're a star, then it seems like you're untouchable in their eyes. And it shouldn't really be the case.
Yeah, something that... Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Jimmy.
I was going to say, I questioned, because I damn it rewatched it, but did Terry Runnels say that she was called into that room? Or, because I read another report where she said she walked in to talk to Dustin, but I could have swore that on that documentary, she said that Brock had called her, and when he came in, or when she came in, that's when he did it. So that's two. I'm not trying to defend anything. I'm just I see things, and I'm trying to give all the pieces of the puzzle. But if I'm getting two different stories on it, it just kind of is weird, especially if Dustin was sitting right there and they were still married, and he just didn't do anything. That's another thing. It's kind of weird. Like, why would he not? Why would he? Someone's done
that to my wife, mate. They wouldn't be getting out that locker room in any kind of fit state. I can tell you that much.
I don't care if it's Brock Lesnar or not. I might get my ass handed to me, but it ain't happening.
You just defend your wife, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing as well was, just while we're mentioning Dustin, was, you know, it was heartbreaking when they were saying about he started singing that song to Terry, and Terry was like, I just no-sold it and stuff, and I was like, you know, as much as I felt sorry for it on the things that happened to him, don't be wrong, I really did, and you know, I'm not in this type of stuff or anything like that, but I really felt for the guy. It was like he was, you know, he's going through a lot there. His marriage was over and whatnot. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was a sad moment, but I have to obviously have to bring it to light as we're completely neutral, unbiased podcasters, and we definitely don't hate Goldberg here. I wanted to bring into attention that Dark Side of the Ring didn't cover a portion of, didn't interview a flight attendant that filed a lawsuit against Dustin Rhodes. I don't know if you guys have seen it on Twitter. It's circulating. It's making rounds, and I think she filed charges against Dustin Rhodes. I don't know the full story. It's on Twitter. You can find it. So, yeah, I thought I really need to bring it to attention here.
Oh yeah, no.
I thought that was weird. I thought that was weird. They left that out and they tried to build sympathy for him. That's kind of a weird thing to me.
And this is where sometimes you always, you know, one thing that I always say is there's one side of the story, there's the other, and somewhere in the middle lies the truth. But one thing that somebody pointed out on Twitter, and it really did catch my attention, was, did anybody notice that there was, apart from Brock Lesnar, no real current WWE employees were really ridiculed on this program? the likes of Bradshaw and people that are still with the company now.
Yeah.
Pritchard wasn't mentioned in that at all, and
I think this episode should have been a two-parter. I think if they did two parts on Brian Pillman, obviously they didn't cover everything on the plane ride from hell. This could have very easily been a two-part episode, and people would have not complained one bit. It's a very interesting story that people were wanting to see.
Yeah.
I think they had to pick and choose the things they did, and
okay, so one thing that I want to look at as well is the flight attendants. I thought she was a very brave lady to come forward and tell a story. And one thing I can say about the lady is she come across so genuine, and she was just telling her side of the story. And obviously what happened with Ric Flair. So with Ric Flair, you know, I've been a younger lad. I know Ric Flair weren't a young lad, but obviously them type of wrestlers act like younger men. Right up until the 50s or whatever. But when I was young lad, I could be a bit over the top with things. I'm not saying or trying to make any light of any situation. But all I'm saying is, do you feel like going forward now, Ric Flair needs to come out and apologise, or do you think he'll be blackballed by people? What do you see the future line for Flair after that documentary, Zane?
I think, first of all, he should apologize, but he won't. Because a few weeks back, he was discussing on Oral Sessions with Renee Paquette that they were discussing the upcoming Plane Ride from Hell episode. And he was like, they're going to lie about that stuff. And he especially stated that Twitter's going to, or something along the lines of IWC is going to burn me alive or something. And I think that these things actually happen. He shouldn't be denying that. Because there's literally a WWE animation, like you might have seen that, where he's narrating it and he says he flashed flight attendants, he flashed at the wrestlers. And with all these accounts of other guys, Dutch Mantel has been saying it. JR said it on the right. Tommy Dreamer himself even admitted it. Even RVD said it. Everyone said it happened. No one said that it didn't happen. But I think Ric Flair should apologize for it, even though he wouldn't. I don't think he would even address Dark Side of the Ring until maybe just ignore it, or maybe address it maybe later down the line. But he should apologize.
What's your thoughts, Jimmy?
To add to that, there's interviews that are coming up that from the past with Bam Bam Bigelow and Shane Douglas, where they basically say that that's the kind of behavior Rick showed all the time. Shane Douglas was talking about Rick whipping his thing out in a bar that was full of kids.
Yeah.
Kids just to have a good time, pulling girls out on the dance floor, dancing with him while he's doing the stuff that Ric Flair that we now know he was doing. So if he wants, I imagine he wants spotlight and attention. That's why he's continued to stay in the wrestling business as long as he has. He's going to have to come out and apologize. He's going to have to sound very sincere, and it's going to take a little bit of time for people to at least soften the impact of what's happened. But from what I heard, the Chris Kanyon episode is next, and that's not going to do many favors either. From what I've heard.
Well, one thing that I'll say is,
which he was.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one thing I say is she is a brave young woman, very brave woman who come across, and everyone here at WrestleBuddy, you know, well, I commend you for your bravery and going about it the right way and keeping it was very dignified in the way that she's done it. You know, we've seen a lot of these people and stories and stuff, and some of them, you know, I'm not saying that some of them don't look genuine, because, you know, in life you're always going to get non-genuine and genuine, but she just, or some people, you can see her doing it for the attention and stuff like this. This lady was very dignified, and you know, in her responses and the way that she carried herself was, you know, she was you know, she should be proud of herself, is probably what I'm trying to say. She's a credit to herself and her family, and, you know, I feel like she's done the right thing to, you know, being a father to a daughter myself. It's, you know, these type of women that come along and are brave enough to speak out about this stuff, the only way this type of thing's ever going to change. So one of the things on this was Tommy Dreamer's comments, basically trying to play it down, which I can get in a way. I'm not saying he's right, but I can see why. If he's been around Flair for all these years and these lads have had these kind of shenanigans that have gone on, you can see why he's kind of come across with this comment of, well, we didn't touch them, so that means that it's not, it's not a sexual predator thing and something like that, in his opinion. I know he got suspended by Impact going forward, and I don't really know what the future holds for Tommy Dreamer after his comments on there. What do you think, Jimmy, in terms of that? Do you feel like this is being dealt with a bit harsh and Tommy's being made the scapegoat a little bit, or do you feel like his comments were totally out of order?
Well, the first thing is you can't punish Ric Flair because he does. So Tommy Dreamer might be coming across as the scapegoat here. But at the same time, if you've ever listened to Bustin' Open Radio or anything with Tommy Dreamer, he's very well known to say, I'm going to protect the business at all costs. Like he's a very firm believer of that. I think there are lines that get crossed where you can't protect the business, and this is one of those lines. And maybe I took it out of context, but this is the part that I guess disturbed me the most about Tommy Dreamer was when he tried to, it sounded like he was trying to compare people getting offended to what Ric Flair was doing to him having a haircut these days because of how cancel culture these days where people just get offended by anything. I think to make that kind of comparison is one of the most insensitive things I've ever heard. And he's lucky that he's only been suspended. That's my opinion on it.
Yeah. And I genuinely don't believe that Tommy, meant them type of things. I think he was a bit of a stupid idiot in the way that he's approached it. I don't think them comments reflect him as a person. What's your thoughts on that, Zane?
Yeah. I feel like what Dreamer said, him defending Flair, is still unacceptable to a certain extent. Like, it is still unacceptable because you can't defend that, and it was so insane seeing the two things juxtaposed: the flight attendant telling her brave story about what had happened and her having to live with that incident despite having to take a payout, because if she didn't take a payout, WWE would have financially drained her, taking her to court every week, and she had no other option. And then in the next shot, you see Tommy Dreamer questioning her for taking a payout, and it came off as so tone deaf and so insensitive. And I'd like to read off Tommy Dreamer his apology, which he just posted, I think, a few hours ago.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me.
Yeah, you want to go ahead, Andy?
Yeah, go on. Okay, so Tommy Dreamer did. That's what I was going to move on to next day. Sync of minds, Zane, sync of minds. So Tommy Dreamer's statement come out with, regarding my comments on Dark Side of the Ring, it was never my intention to offend, hurt, or victim shame anyone. I understand my comments were insensitive and could trigger emotions in someone's own personal past. I do not condone sexual misconduct of any kind. I apologize to anyone I offended. From the bottom of my heart, I am so sorry. To me, it's very, very genuine. And as I say, I think he's had a bit of a nightmare here, Jimmy, but I don't think he's the type of guy that would mean to be like that.
I don't think his intentions were to come off the way he did. Absolutely. I buy his apology because usually these apologies come out right after the incident happens. I think he's allowed people time to soak everything in and vent their frustrations and all that. I just think my biggest issue was just the way he worded the offended comment, and he has to come to grips with there's a line you just can't allow. You can't have this line get crossed when you're protecting the business.
No, and I think also these Dark Side of the Ring guys, I think they've thrown them under the bus a little bit with this one. I think they probably knew what was going to happen with this, and they should have really, it's different because when you're in the wrestling industry, let's not forget, somebody, what you say is it's vetted before it gets said out there, and the fact that it's not on this case is kind of a little bit unfair. But also one thing that I say, Zane, with this this statement that he's released as well is a lot of them come across really corporate and structured and, released by a lawyer or whatever it may be. This is just straight from the heart, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But then again, I like obviously. I think this was more of Tommy Dreamer being really stupid and dumb with
Mm,
his what he said, and uh, I am by no means defending what Tommy Dreamer said. I actually
no.
hated with all my being the things he said. But I feel like I've read his apology, and it seems like as Jimmy said, he's given people to take out their frustration, and he might have taken some time to understand what he did wrong himself.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
let's
And the one
see.
thing, sorry.
Yeah, I was just finished. I was saying, let's see what happens, what he
Yeah.
changes, or what change he brings to himself.
And just to finish on that, as I say, you can see that suddenly he sat on his phone or his computer and he's just wrote down himself from his heart rather than let's go to a lawyer and see what I can release or Impact have given him something to post on his social media. Just the end of it from the bottom of my heart. I am so sorry. He apologizes quite a few times throughout this, and it was never my intention to do this and I don't want to stick it. I think he's just being very stupid. I always say it to my 11-year-old lad, and I know, Jimmy, you've got a lad around the same age as me, and, one of the things I'm always saying to him is, think before you speak.
Yeah.
It's because sometimes you will say something, and as you say it, or after you say it, you'll go, oh no, I shouldn't have said that. We've
Yeah.
all had times of it, and
Or think before it makes air. Like he had time to
Yeah.
tell them, all right, I
Yeah.
didn't mean that. Some things you might want to shoot the scene again with me.
but has
I
he
shouldn't
looked
have
at
said
that?
that.
But has he looked at that though? Has he even looked at that, or is he, because Tommy Dreamer's known for being a one-shot guy, isn't he? So maybe he's gone and sat down with them, gone back to Impact, and got on with his job.
I mean, he should have, knowing what he said, but
Two
yeah.
things to add to it. With his apology, what sells it to me the most is after listening to Tommy Dreamer for so many years through his interviews and on Busted Open, when I read his apology, that is exactly how I would picture him saying it. That's how that's why I believe it. It's not a PR. Those are his words that he's speaking, and that's why I believe his apology. And two, I think these guys with Dark Side of the Ring might have themselves a problem now because you might have these guys who see this and be like, well, I'm not going to do that. I don't want that to happen to me. They're not going to come on that show and do these voiceovers and stuff or give their takes because, well, what if they take what I'm saying out of context and put it with their story to make me look bad? I think that's a real problem they might have caused for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, we'll leave that there anyway. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Me, Jimmy, and Zane are always, very, very grateful to every one of you who come and watch us and watch these videos and support us, Wrestle Buddies in general. Zane, where can we find you, mate, just before we finish off?
ZanPW on Twitter. Please follow me, please.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to send a tweet out tonight saying, please follow Zane. We need more followers. Jimmy, where can we find you, buddy?
You can find me at Jimmy Bebe on Twitter. I'm also on WrestleBuddy. I do takeaways. You'll see me every Tuesday and Wednesday with my take. And if you're on Instagram, you can check me out. Give me your pizza boy.
And also make sure you follow him on Facebook if you can pop on Facebook because I am loving the whole Halloween stuff at the moment. I'm really like it's becoming a daily routine of mine to check out what's next. So it's really, really cool at the moment.
Jimmy Timberlake really on Facebook.
Yeah,
Jimmy Timberlake.
I'm enjoying the whole Halloween stuff at the moment, mate. I'm looking forward to progressing through. It's like watching a storyline at the moment. You write better storyline in WWE.
I might have to reapply after this.
Yeah, definitely. Right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching us today. As we said yesterday as well, we are now on Spotify, so make sure you look in the link below and see us on Spotify. So if you don't want to sit there with your YouTube open or you want to catch us on the road, get onto Spotify and watch us there. Also, check out all our articles on WrestleBuddy. Look out for all our exclusive interviews that we're coming out and all of our content from all the guys with our writing, YouTube videos, Spotify. We're everywhere. So there's no reason for you not to follow us. But for now, take care and we will see you next week, guys. Bye now.